let's start off with if anyone wants to give an update on kind of what they're working on or any opening thoughts. Aaron, you want to start?
Sure, why not? Um, I think over the course of the last week, it's been less progress than usual, as anticipated. Just holiday weekend. Um, Nothing new really to report on the account creation front. I pulled all of my devs at this point to write content for the working groups. Um, that'll be picking back up again in probably mid-January. I think that's when maybe normal work is going to be resuming. Um, Papers feel like they're clicking extra hard, especially over the last couple days, which is awesome. Um, yeah, and we will hopefully be releasing those account creation libraries early next year. We'll probably be looking for some early adopters to do some initial integrations. Might be looking at you, John.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Keen to get my hands on it.
John, what's been going on with you this past week?
Um, been reviewing the sorry, mainly just sort of holiday stuff. Like Christmas is like the one time I take off kind of thing. So just chilling out a bit, spending time with my brother. And then doing a bit of code review and buying a new rig, new PC, new monitors and gear for my new employee who starts in January 3rd. So just getting my ducks in a row there, getting organized for the new year.
You got an older brother or younger brother?
Younger, he's in the army, so he's just sort of been let out for the Christmas break. So I only see him a couple times a year.
Nice. Chris, what's up?
As it relates to these things, not a whole lot. Yeah, I will kick into the transparency stuff in the new year. So I'll have updates then and expect to get far more involved in that initiative. So nothing really between last week and this week that will be exciting to speak of. Other like Christmas and stuff, those things.
Right. Lovejoy, you got the YouTube figured out or what's going on?
No, I think I need multiple. Yeah, it's not gonna work. Every time I come back here, I have to switch audio back to here, and it's kind of janky. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I kind of gave up on that.
That's cool.
I just pulled the plug so I can actually be present because right now I'm trying to troubleshoot. Happy almost New Year, everybody. Whew. What a wild couple weeks. I feel like time is moving at an unnecessarily rapid clip right now. Don't have a ton to report in on Chief Delegate wise. I sent additional donation to support to Violet Garden and to the bees of 100 EOS each this month. I already mentioned about the 300 that went to the Korean community, and just been trying to kind of get like Discord figured out, and we do have a Discord, an Eden Discord channel. Something I'd like to. Hopefully, we can get some traction over there and get some people hanging out over there. We'll have to share the link today to that. If anyone is super savvy with Discord and wants to help out and is an Eden member, be great to have you over there. Right now, Chuck and Josh Seymour and a couple other people are helping out, but we could always use more hands on deck. And
I just shared the link in the stream chat for the Eden Discord.
Cool. Excellent.
So Yana's going to be recording this session. So we're not streaming it anywhere, but we're recording it, and then we can share the recording with you guys if you want to upload it somewhere afterwards. And gonna close up the forum soon, but we've only got 7 responses, and I know I see 24 people in the audience. So if you're in the audience, look on the left-hand side of Discord here to find the stream chat channel, and then scroll up just a few messages to find the link to that form. Get in there, fill out your account, and you'll get a proof of participation token, and that'll be eligible for the end of the month raffle.
Stuff. Can't wait until the day that you just like message a bot and the QR code pops up and you scan it with Anchor and it'll associate your account or something.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Awesome.
Hopefully that's up soon enough, and I don't have to do all this manual work.
Yep.
Randall, would you like to give an update?
Yeah. So we have a lot going on. So first thing is, we worked on our budget. So we have a clear budget on how we can move forward. And we also have a clear plan on how we are going to expand EU support. So that's something that we worked on last week. We have written some good how-tos and some articles as well, including like the history of EOS since 2017 until 2021. So that's also great, something that people can look at and just try to consume all the information about EOS. We are also we are helping a lot of people as much as we can, like usual. The most important thing is I discussed with one of my guys, and he brought it up to me that if we are going to provide value, we should as well try to get a way for users to buy EOS. So at first we were gonna do EOS merchandise, but we wanted to like do a donation. But I've decided that I'm gonna make it like a gift shop so that we can test it out a little bit to see how people really want to buy things. So we would just make it a gift shop. People can just buy little things, and for us to really donate to each other, and start using EOS as a currency as much as possible. So that's something that we are working on to add to our platform. So far, so good. Things are going well. We are testing a couple of things, so it's looking good. And lastly, we just took Mr. Lovejoy's bounty, pretty much. I mean, he supports us a lot. So we took the bounty to also help with Eden invitations into the private chat, because it seemed like a lot of people are not inviting the people that they brought onto Eden. They don't invite them to the private chat. So it's something that we are working on as well, and we're gonna moving forward. We're gonna take upon ourselves to double check every single time to make sure that everyone is invited, pretty much. So that's what we've been doing, and we are looking across the landscape to see anything that we could possibly do to make the community very cohesive, because collaboration is key to what we are trying to build, and whatever that support can do to bring people together, to make people aware of what's going on in the community, what dApps are being used, which ones are available, how to stake. That's what we are planning on to we are planning on doing aggressively, and also try to scale up, because I think we are ready to actually bring on a lot of people. Now with the budget and everything, if we get it together, hopefully we can bring on so many people. And I'm very thankful to all the people that I have applied. There's a lot of people that have applied so far. So once things go well, we can bring all of them on board and try to find value and create value for the community.
Yeah, and I saw, Randall, on the EOS support site, there's a great list of dApps with a paragraph or two of explanation on each. So that was really cool to see. I think we all want kind of like a dApp directory, and I think the best one is on EOS support right now.
Oh, by the way,
yeah.
By the way, I want to add this. Actually, that one is just a list for now. we're actually building a tool that we will use the EOS, the Eden filter, so that Eden members can actually rate the dApps, right? So we're actually doing that, and it's gonna look a lot better. It's something that we are working on. I wanna make sure that it's completed before we showcase it. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
We will have to collaborate at some point in the future. One of the projects coming out of one of the working groups is basically kind of an index of apps that you can use as well. So if those can be somehow combined, that'd be awesome.
That's excellent. Oh, another thing. One last thing before I get off, and maybe I'll get off for good. I will not speak as much. Is that I was able to talk to Francis for almost an hour and change, and support wants to help with the recovery plus. It's something that we brought up, and I'm very interested in giving a little bit of my brain to the project, and to also find out what we are planning on doing. So that's something that support is also trying to work on. So just in case, if I'm talking about it, is because of the interest that I have in helping with account recovery, and more importantly, in the future, at least trying to help the team that wants to take upon themselves to help with recovering let's say funds for big projects, or talking about the best practices for dApp applications, like what you have to do just in case. So if anything happens, at least we can go through the process and help dApps and projects to recover funds or their keys and stuff. Yeah.
Awesome.
Very
Yeah.
cool. All right, I'll give my update. We've been working very hard on getting the white paper out. It is completed. Just kind of waiting to make it a little prettier. Last one was just on the Google Doc. We want to spice it up a little bit more this time. Put it on a PDF. Get some colors in there. We're also continuing to record for our Meet the Hive series. We recorded today and got it out today with the Turkish Hive. That was a very interesting conversation. I guess I'll give a few brief highlights. Apparently, the Turkish-speaking community is very into the bullish exchange. When they think of EOS, they think of the bullish exchange, and we need to work on ways to educate the Turkish-speaking EOS community about all the other stuff happening on EOS. So that's something that we definitely want to do. We had our beginner's guide translated into Turkish, and we put it on the influencer that the Turkish Hive onboarded on his website. He wasn't he's not a crypto influencer, but he's kind of an e-commerce influencer. And so we want to continue to do stuff like that to educate the Turkish-speaking EOS community. They have new regulations coming for crypto and the Turkish government. And the Recep, the leader of the Turkish Hive, is optimistic that because EOS is already on all the exchanges, that any other potential crypto that the Turkish government may prohibit, EOS will still be there. But yeah, we talked about kind of other stuff, what the Turkish Hive would do if they had a bigger budget. So great conversation. We're translating it. So we had a translator on this one, and it was much kind of quicker. Like on the last Meet the Hives episode, it was kind of like a long talk in English, long talk in Spanish. But this was, I feel like it worked better this way, where it's kind of quick takes each language. And I felt like it was more watchable. So if anyone's been following the series, you can give us feedback on how to best service both languages that are watching it. And yeah, January 1st, we're launching the first iteration of EOS Beast 2.0 with our bounty budgets. And so we're very excited for that. That's it.
Awesome. With both you and Randall talking about different support and translation and reaching greater communities. That's definitely something on our radar right now. We've had a few support requests recently where it seems like people didn't understand, mainly because Anchor is only in English for the most part. Um, some of the processes that were going on, and the act of translating and providing support in other languages is slowly creeping up our list of priorities. So I may try to reach out to you guys or anybody else that's interested that may be able to lend a hand.
Yeah, definitely.
So, um, and you mentioned budgets, which was another topic I wanted to bring up tonight. I don't know if we're ready to jump to something else randomly.
Yeah, let's do it.
Take it
Cool.
away.
Um, in all places, in EOS governance chat, I was kind of rambling about budgets over the last 48 hours. And just the point that like idle budgets aren't good was, I think it was Luca that brought it up. Um, so what I think I'm going to do now is by the end of the year, I want to finally make some sort of movement on my excess budget and give it to support the bees and Violet Garden. Kind of give you guys all a good chunk. Chris and Lovejoy, if you guys had a reason for some, like that's on the table too, but I just wasn't thinking about it. We can have that conversation though. So yeah, I need to figure out how, I mean, we don't have to talk about that necessarily on the call, but just I want to do that by year's end, I think. So in the next like 24 hours, I'll probably be reaching out to you guys to figure out how to do that.
Awesome. I also have something about a budget I want to bring up, but I'll let
Yeah.
others could respond to what Aaron said if anyone wants.
I think it sounds great. And yeah, I don't have any use for anything additional beyond what I've got. So yeah, send it to those guys. Sounds good.
Awesome. And I know your transparency initiative is, I think, is also important. And if a need does come up in the future, like I think I've made it known a couple times that I didn't ask for a random giant budget, and I want to make sure it gets put to good use. So, and that I guess also goes to people, other Eden delegates. Like if you have a burning need right now, reach out. Um, Eden, the ecosystem has certainly changed a whole lot since the election that put us all here.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah,
Everything's changing.
it's
Yeah, I
crazy.
won't need any additional budget. I'm
Cool.
I'm kind of doing the same thing you're doing, only with much less. But yeah.
Right. So, and then I need to figure out on that same topic of budgets, like if there's some place that I can put more towards gray mass to give something of value. And if I can find something, I'll probably bring it up just in general conversation and try to get a feeling from the Eden community on how they feel about that. I have weirdness around, like I ran on something very specific and I was given much more than I needed. So I don't want to just say, "Oh, this is mine," even though I'd probably put it to good use hiring someone. Um, I don't know. It's weird, and I think we're all feeling our way through these Eden processes, um, and what it means to us, both legally and reputationally. So yeah, we're just kind of winging it. At least I know I am.
I think you should build a game in Unicove.
We've been talking about building a game in Gray Mass for a while now. Like, I really want to get to the point where we could build some sort of fun blockchain game. But we've decided that we really need to nail down the core tech that we're using first, which, funny enough, is like
So
why I quit.
practical.
Yeah. Well, we all like my story is like I started by building social platforms on Steam. That was my introduction to blockchain, and I had like probably one of the most advanced forum implementations on blockchain ever. But the wallet situation just sucked, and so did the SDK situation and the learning situation. And so I stepped back and started doing wallets, and here I am today doing the same stuff. And it just takes that long when you have a small team. But I do want to build a game.
I think your logo wants to like swim around and do things.
We do have an
The
animated one.
Unicove, yeah, the Unicove logo just looks like it needs to be in a game. That's my main motivation.
Yeah, we wanted it to be fun.
Yeah.
We need to bring more fun back.
Before we get down to total party time, I know Jesse had something that he wanted to say
yeah.
about budget.
Yeah, I want to bring up Eve's cookie once again.
All right.
I know that Eve watches these, and I just am curious on if any feedback from the number that I brought up. I think Randall had publicly stated that he agrees, or he supports that number. So any feedback would be great.
Jesse, I support it, and I think maybe we should increase it to 1 million, since we didn't get the 1 million from Block 1. So maybe we should get it to 1 million.
All right, Randall's got a new number. Okay.
So refreshing my memory, are we talking dollars or are we talking EOS?
We're talking
EOS.
EOS.
All right. So you've quadrupled it essentially.
Yes, my reasoning is because we were supposed to get 1 million EOS from Block 1 to Eden right
Okay.
away. But because things did not go as planned, we didn't get that 1 million EOS. So to me, we don't even have to do any calculations because we've been waiting for this 1 million EOS into the Eden Treasury for the past God knows how long, right? So if we can really get some money in there, that would be great. And then we can start the incentive of we can start incentivizing people to join the community in a very responsible way, maybe little tokens here and there, and just start inviting people into Eden community and incentivizing them that way. I mean, from support standpoint, we can do that and we can track it. All right. And I think maybe I can communicate with JC as well, and we can come up with something that we can do for now and see how things go.
What do you mean by incentivize?
So, you know how we are bringing people on board and we have support agents and we have the Ds doing this work of going out there and inviting people and inviting them into the private groups. We can find a way to incentivize those who are doing that work, right?
Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
And just for anyone listening who hasn't been following our chief delegate calls, my number is a 2.27x increase of our current budget allocation. That would top up the Eden Treasury to around 600,000 EOS. So that's an additional around 350,000 EOS. And my reasoning was that it's at the time I think it was 8% of ENF's what they're looking at with EOSIO.grants plus EOSIO.savings. I know they just got another 6.5 million EOS. Congrats to the ENF. So it's even a smaller percentage now. I didn't do the math, but that's kind of where I'm coming from. I thought a little bit more than double what we're getting is kind of a reasonable next step. So that's where I'm coming from.
What about, have you guys, I mean, this is, I don't know, off topic sort of, but so Jesse and Randall, the work that you guys are doing, and other than myself and Lovejoy, I suppose Aaron, John, Jesse, Randall, all of your projects, have you gone directly to the ENF for support? Because I'm still not certain that this Eden thing is the right method by which your projects should receive ongoing and consistent funding.
Yeah. So Chris, to answer you with that, yes, I'm in talks with the ENF, and we've gone through a couple of my budgets. I sent it to them. I have a whole package, and they've looked at it, and they've set up a meeting to have a discussion with me. It's coming up. So yes, we've been having some discussion, full transparency.
Good. Yeah, you should. I think that's great to hear. That's awesome.
Yeah, from what I understand, and there was an article recently about this too, was that they're working on the grant framework so that there's a process to apply. Um, I do, I completely agree that maybe this isn't, Eden's not the means to fund an entire company, I don't think. Um, we're still trying to figure out what Eden is specifically, especially with the upcoming white paper. It'll be maybe in the next week or so. Um, yeah, which is it. To loop this back to the previous conversation, it makes it hard to pick these numbers. Um, when we're talking, especially for the sortition winner, if we're talking about doubling it, which is a little bit more than doubling it, which is Jesse's number, that puts like, I don't know, 30,000 USD worth of tokens in my budget every month. That was like the total amount I was kind of seeking to build this one feature that we were running on. Um, and I know that businesses like both Jesse and Randall, you have businesses that could essentially consume as much, well, not as much, not an infinite amount, but a lot more money than you're given. So we even have different goals with businesses in that you guys can just keep bringing new people on and increasing the amount that it could cost. Um, whereas when it comes to software, like on John and our side, we could hire more people, but there's like a lot more significant of a ramp up time and upfront investment cost that comes with that. Um, if I have to spend 3 months onboarding a new developer to understand the technology stack, I need to make sure that I'm going to keep them around for years. So really, I should try to bank at least a year of that person's salary plus all the overhead costs for that person before I hire one person, because I don't want to train somebody and then have to let them go. So coming up with these numbers is difficult, especially because we're all coming at it from very different perspectives.
Yeah. So Aaron, this is my take on that. You are basically elected to be a brain, a hardworking soul for the community, right? So once you are elected like that, it's because you have the ability to express yourself in a group and to gain the confidence of that group that you are going to move forward, build something amazing for EOS, and also represent yourself in the community. So honestly, if I was in Chris's position or Lovejoy's position, I would do the same thing. If I get 1 million EOS, I will distribute that funds based on what I think is necessary for the community to move forward. And I think that's how, Aaron, I'm going to try to maybe encourage you to look at, because I'd rather trust you with more funds than to trust someone that I don't know to distribute those funds. So if I know for a fact, knowing you and talking to you and getting to know you these past couple of months has really enabled me to gain a lot of confidence in you, that if I'm sacrificing a lot to do something, and I know Aaron has some of the EOS tokens, he will do the right thing by investing them in projects that will help make EOS greater in years to come. So I think we have to look at it from that point of view, so that at least you don't feel guilty that you have too much and you don't know what to do with it.
Right.
I know for a fact you will look around and you will do the best things with the funds that you have, like how Brandon Lovejoy has done and how Chris have done. And that's all that we can ask for, to do the best that we can, and at the end we will live with the results.
Let me, if I could, Aaron, give the other side to that.
Yeah, sure.
It kind of reminds me of what Dan had said when he was at Block One, where I believe he said that it took more time to like research what projects to invest in than it was like the actual investment would be worth. And so, yes, Aaron would have a larger budget, but it kind of takes a lot of time to figure out where to put that. And I'm not sure that perhaps Aaron doesn't have the time for that. He maybe have to delegate it. So I understand it's not simple, and I can sympathize with the challenges that you're facing, Aaron.
Yeah. And I think, oh, John, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I agree with the sort of idea that it shouldn't just be like Eden shouldn't just be the sort of platform to kind of bootstrap and run a company, off from. And then again, with the head delegate, again, if they run into the part where they're not sure if they can make efficient use of funds, then again they should, I guess, sink in with the the rest of the community, and then do more contributions to other projects. But again, there's going to be times where Eden, it's not all about projects. Maybe we want to or I guess there will be projects, but like maybe funds are better allocated in some sort of other endeavor rather than creating new projects the whole time, or maintenance and things like that. So it's not always going to be going towards the new and latest and greatest projects. Some are just going to require basic maintenance, or again funds towards the not so sexy kind of stuff, like wallet maintenance, or whatever it might be. But yeah, so essentially, bottom line, yeah, I don't think that Eden should just be the sort of application, or sort of company starter. It should be more to sort of get the ball rolling. So at the moment, the funds that are coming through, I think are adequate enough to get something going. Like, it's not going to be fully professional. Like, I can't deliver, too much with the current funds that I have, but at the same time, it's, enough for me to, you know, make something, get something in momentum, and then a little bit, extra left over on top of that. And but I think, I don't know, we should probably create a culture where maybe it's a bit more dynamic, where it's part of the head delegate might not be so much where he takes all the money for his project, because Aaron hasn't even done that. But it's more like, hey, where can we best distribute this? And maybe every weekly call, technically you could rank it. So we have like our weekly stand-ups, like we do, and then we say, oh, where can we devote a week's worth of head delegate money towards, kind of thing. And that changes week by week as things changes. So it's a bit more dynamic rather than it being so static, where it's like, all right, here's a lump sum of cash, away you go.
Yeah. And that really much lends to what I think we all assume is coming in this new white paper for kind of an Eden 2. Um, and that, like, the funds that people earn are essentially to pay themselves so they can make certain things happen on a shorter time frame, um, which is what I think, if the current iteration of the system continued on, like, let's say Eden 1 keeps running, the amount that the delegates earn really should go towards paying themselves to be involved. Um, like, I, I didn't run with the intention of paying myself to, like, work on Eden stuff 10 or 20 hours a week. Um, it was for a specific thing, a specific project, and that, I think, was just because none of us really had a good grasp on what exactly it was we were doing in the election. Um, but the experience we've gained, like, since then, might really shape differently what the next election looks like. Maybe the delegates themselves do run and pay themselves to work a certain amount of time each week to be able to fulfill these roles, because, like you both just said, finding and evaluating projects is a lot of effort. Like, I could probably spend 10 or 20 hours a week doing that exclusively with this budget. And my time's probably better spent elsewhere, even though I think I would do a really good job at evaluating projects. Um, I can see technical roadblocks in projects' ways just by, like, looking at their website. Um, so that evaluation would be valuable, but, like, that stuff takes time to figure out who has a viable shot at being successful evaluating their ideas. So, yeah. But maybe to bring us back full circle to the cookie situation, like, if the majority of your budget for all of us was going to pay you to being involved and helping to distribute or manage Eden as an organization, do you need 2 times? Do you need 4 times a budget that you have today to be able to do that? Or is it just that you need that today in order to be able to support the bigger initiatives that you ran on?
So for support wise, I have a different um outlook in that my goal is to have support in over 200 languages, right? Imagine EOS having support,
Holy.
right?
Right?
And being able to help each user in that language to understand what EOS is about. If we can get to that level, then we know that EOS was successful. That's the Amazon level, right? And I really believe in EOS network to think that way, right? And maybe some people will call me crazy, but that's how I've started all my businesses and get to a guide to where I'm at, right? In that sometimes you have to be crazy. You cannot be normal.
Yep.
You have to think outside the box to get to that level. So if we don't get to maybe 200 languages and we get to 100, I can still say that EOS was successful. And for us to do that, we have to incentivize a lot of people. And each person that you bring can bring 2 new people who didn't know about EOS, right? If we take that approach and we are going to incentivize these guys to bring these people on board, 1 million EOS is not enough. Honestly, if you think about it that way, from support point of view, based on what I'm trying to do. So overall, if we think about the languages and we think about communities that we are going to build for each language, and its localities, right? Then we know that just by EOS support community, we can have thousands of users and experts, content creators, writing how-tos, and people making videos just to talk about EOS and spread it. And if I look at it from Jesse's point of view or perspective, man, you can have so many bees out there making so much noise. And then if you want to pay them competitively or give them a little something for them to be motivated, then 1 million EOS is not enough. If I look at it from that point of view, right? So that's where I'm looking at it when I'm talking about, okay, I think 1 million EOS is good for us to use, right? But then when we look at it from Grandma's point of view or John's point of view, or maybe Brandon Lovejoy can spend 1 million EOS easily because he looks out there, he goes into the community and he asks what's going on. He tries to evaluate and try to give people rewards for their hard work. So it's very similar to what Jesse and myself, we are trying to do. But if you want to look at it from just creating a wallet, then 1 million EOS is just a bit too much. Or if you look at it from just creating, like, let's say, e-commerce website, then it's too much, right? But from the point of view that you are trying to reach so many people, new users who don't know about EOS, and trying to educate them and incentivize the people who are doing that work, if you think about it from that point, then it seems like 1 million is not far-fetched.
So I think the answer to your question, Aaron, is yes. A double, like if we double the budget, yes, we need it to potentially distribute it. I think for both me and Randall, doubling the budget, it's all going to go into our projects.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess what I was trying to get to is that the point of Eden? Or is the point of Eden to bring us as individuals into the process and not our projects?
Yeah, so maybe the more interesting question is, like, Randall, let's say that you got all the budget that you requested from the ENF. How much more would you need to play more of a distributor role if you didn't put any more EOS into your project?
For me, I'm always looking to distribute.
Or was that the?
Do we lose Randall?
Guess so.
Yeah, Randall, we can't hear you.
He said, "I'm always
Did that
looking to
question make sense,
distribute."
guys? That I just
What was that?
did the question I asked make sense?
Which one?
So it's
Sorry.
like if you had all the budget, like if
Yeah,
if
yeah.
any of us were in Aaron's shoes, where we had all the budget that we needed for our project, the question is, how much EOS would we want just to distribute to other projects? Is perhaps a more interesting question.
Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry, guys.
Don't worry.
Someone called. Yeah. So pretty much, for me, I just feel like it's all dependent, right? So some guys, they reach out to me. They are translating, I think, more equal animals into German. I want to help them, right? Even though we are strapped for cash and I'm not really able to pay these guys the amount that they need, I'm still going to help them with my own funds, right? So there are times that a project will come up and they need something, and you know that you can do it. You know, if you have a little money here and there, you just do it just for the fact that you can help, right? So it's not about trying to make sure that you can cover all your bases before you start helping other projects. If you think you have a little something here and there and you can contribute somehow, you contribute the same way that we all contributed to Pomelo. I think that's how it has to be from my point of view. From my point of view, that's just my opinion, but I think that's how we should look at it.
I want to read something from the stream chat from Chuck. He
Yeah.
writes, one thing to consider is all the other projects that didn't make it through the election rounds because they were stacked by Bs and support voters. They also had good ideas, and they should get another crack at scoring funding from Eden. Doesn't it make sense to also look at other Eden Project members who don't have the recognition that the CDs have? Yes, I mean,
Yeah.
I think Aaron had mentioned that he's willing to talk to people about this.
Yeah, and that comes back to kind of the core of this conversation is that that sort of stuff takes a lot of time. The communication and the understanding, like if Chuck had a project that needed funding, that's going to take probably hours of conversation to be able to evaluate and understand. And so really part of the budget on my end should be going to paying myself to fill that role, and then some amount beyond that that is my budget to be able to distribute like that. But that's not the platform we ran on. It's not it it's a kind of like a misaligned and I don't even know what the right thing to call this is. Different expectations, I guess. It's I ran with different expectations. Um, and just committing that time as much as I would love to do that. That's imagine doing that 10 times a week and that's 20 hours a week.
Aaron, do you trust anyone to perform the role of distributing?
Potentially, yeah. Or in Eden-like process. Like I think an Eden-like process is somewhat what this is for, but I don't think it fits all needs. And what's being highlighted is that there maybe this is kind of what Dan sees as the flaws in version 1. It's what I'm trying to explain. It's that it's not distributing it and it's not aligning, and it doesn't realign all that fast, which is probably why the pendulum is completely swinging the other way, and we're talking about weekly stand-up type elections now. It's so that way we don't end up stuck in situations like this.
So my thing is, what's wrong with Pomelo? I mean, I thought people can put their projects on Pomelo so that others can look at the project and then if the project makes sense
They're
somehow,
different.
or yeah,
With
but if you are,
Eden, you just participate. With Pomelo, you create a pitch that requires other people to actually donate their own money to it. There's no donation here involved in Eden.
no, that's not, I'm sorry, that's not what I was trying to say. I was trying to say that if the project that the Eden member is pitching is good enough, right? If they put it out there on Eden, then at least, you can look at it and be like,
Yeah.
okay, I think this is good enough for me to give you something, even though you didn't make too much or you didn't make
Yeah.
it through the rounds, right?
The
And
lack of
that's why,
frequency on Pomelo, though, is kind of the problem. We've had one, and now we have to wait, I think, another month or two before the next season begins.
that's true.
So, I mean, like, that's not an option today, for example, is all I'm trying to get across.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have this
It's a hard
very
problem, guys.
rapidly changing ecosystem right now that is making things difficult.
Yeah, well, the new update should Eden upgrade to it. Yeah, like we've seen, we'll have the weekly iterations, and so people can constantly, try prove themselves on what they've done and what value that they've provided to their community, and then
Yep.
funding can get distributed that way as well. It also forces people that sort of climb the ranks to actually have that sweat previously earned behind them, so there's no way of sort of like sweet talking your way in, or sort of having like a really good pitch kind of thing, and like nothing to but back it up. Like you have to prove that you've actually worked harder. You got to do the work first before payment, whereas today you can get payment first and then do the work as well. So yeah, a lot more dynamic, and I think there'll be much more opportunities for participation, because if people like missed out on the first election, then you're essentially screwed until you go to the next election to sort of be part of that sort of governance process. Whereas in the new system, it's just drop in, drop out each week.
Yeah.
So yeah, much more fluid as well. I think a lot more people again. Yeah, people are going to have a lot more opportunities to sort of get up on stage and show them what they got, kind of thing, rather than have these sort of long 6-month processes before they can do that.
Yeah. And I bring all of this up to come all the way back to Jesse's original question about the cookie. And my opinion right now is that we don't need any extra. We don't need any extra until we know what's happening. And if this were the current system, if the sortition still exists and my budget is still this large, then I still think we have enough. I have enough. And that is a problem because I know you guys don't have enough.
Yeah. I want to address something that Rude Mudcrab wrote in the stream chat. He said that Chuck McDonald has a point. These setups where the game theory has many people from one grant who would benefit from a grant being able to vote overrules community signal. And I've gotten this point addressed to me multiple times, and I wrote about it in my upcoming white paper. I think I don't think the system is broken per se. I just think it's immature. Obviously, you're talking about the bees and support. But the thing with bees and support is that we are building a multilingual system. And when Eden is mature, or at least from what I understand about the plan, the languages are going to be segregated. Like there's going to be different communities with different languages. So because there's only one community right now, all of the languages come in one community, and there's a disproportionate setup there. So I think that it's just a matter of how mature these systems are. But I totally get that point.
I am I am curious to know what numbers would be from like Chris and Lovejoy as others that are in similar to my position without projects that could consume unlimited funding.
Numbers isn't like how much money does Eden deserve, or should we ask for?
Yeah, like how much would you like to see in the treasury in relation to how it would impact you and what you're doing today with it?
Yeah, for me, it's there's so much uncertainty about what the point of Eden is. It makes it really difficult to put a number on, like what do we need funding for. So I'm still I personally I think the best application is to have a pot of funding, and Eden Chief Delegates are more like salaried positions, and they don't represent projects, and instead they represent leadership and trust, and then they get a pot, and then they become like another funding mechanism for projects that can have their own process outside of what the ENF is doing and outside of Pomelo. So
Yeah.
in that instance, I kind of like the original suggestion from when this Eden thing was first announced, and it was 0.25%. Let's just direct 0.25% straight to Eden and let it run with it.
And then the delegates are just the leaders that figure out what to do with it.
It becomes, treat it like a DAO. Let's let the DAO self-organize. And the whole question was, do we trust this Eden process to not be gamed and have individuals or an individual or group of people capture it and then take the money and run? I thought that was the original big concern, right? Eden doesn't deserve this sort of large amount of funding. So I don't know, community, do we deserve more funding based on the current progress so far? But again, like purpose, I still don't. Yeah, it's like, are we selecting projects? Are we selecting consensus builders?
I feel like, given the situation we have now, we should probably try to see if we can satisfy the budgets that the Bs and support are looking for. And I'm not sure what John's budgetary needs are from what Aaron's sitting on that he doesn't have an explicit use for. And then based on where that leaves us, come up with some idea of how far behind we are at that point. So we probably have enough. Well, I haven't done the math, but I think Aaron's sitting on a substantial stream of revenue. So I guess before asking for more money, first I would just figure out how to like liberate some of the money that's currently just sitting around without a job. And yeah, part of it's also just that we know that there's going to be, well, I guess under the current scenario, we're here until April 9th, till the election. So we're going to need to continue to do the best we can for the Eden community in the position that we're in. And to me, that, is kind of tilting towards, well, I just want to pay community members to do things that they want to get done. Because, I think we're all kind of seeing what Dan is trying to solve by moving towards weekly elections in a sense. Or one of the things that it attempts to solve is kind of this faster back and forth with the people that are doing stuff. And I think we can kind of artificially encourage that in advance of moving in that direction. But so for myself, I guess, I don't know. It seems like there's no point in me answering like what I think would be like some ideal number for me in this scenario, because the scenario is now going to be over, and probably never will be like the first and last people in this position. So I guess rather than try to come up with a way that this makes sense for us in our particular situations, or like, people like me, I'd rather just see like the projects that are running get the funding they need. So whatever that number is, whatever that number needs to be, and minus whatever difference you can make up from your budget, Aaron, if you're open to that, and then take it from there. But
so quick one. So when I was running during the elections, when I was running through the delegations, there were a couple of projects that I loved. I loved one gentleman. His name is Bishop. Bishop wanted to galvanize the French community and do great things for them. And he wanted to translate, and that was what he was running on. So I told him that, hey, you don't have to do this on your own. With support, I can bring you on board, and you can still be able to galvanize the French community. So Bishop is now one of the guys who is in support, and he's providing support for the French community, and he's writing articles for that community, and he's trying to build that community. There was another guy, his name is Evgeny. He's Russian. And he just reached out to me recently, and he told me that, dude, I want to be part of support so that I can help translate into Russia and build the Russian community. Then there was Stefan. Stefan is trying to do something that's so amazing with NFTs, but he said that he needed over 150,000 USD. I believe in the project that he's working on. I don't have no damn $150,000 to give the man, but I can assure you, if Eden had that budget and I'm in control, I would give the guy the money because what he pitched was excellent. Then there was SOV tokens. They also need some funds so that they can continue to build on their project. Then I have Hanan, who is working with EOS Starter. Okay, that man needs a lot more money than I can anticipate to build EOS Starter and to incubate projects. I cannot help him with that, but I know for a fact that if we have enough in our budget, we can do that. So what am I trying to say? There are a lot of projects that were with us when we were running the elections. Unfortunately, we've forgotten some of them. And actually, I'm going to help one guy, like I said, translate more equal animals into German. And I'm going to, make sure that they actually print it out as well. And I think John Boyd is also helping out. And I think EOS Costa Rica is also helping out with that initiative. So there are plenty of things out there that you don't have to actually sit. I mean, sometimes you have to sit down and look at it and talk to people about it. But that's what we are here for, right? We are here to commit to EOS. So I know it sucks. And sometimes, our time is very valuable. But at this point in time, we have to do the best things that we can do to support the other projects and encourage others to also come along so that we can bring value to EOS, the currency, or the community, right? So I really think that, looking at it like, okay, we don't need enough money is not the best way for us to look at things, because there are so many other projects that need a lot more. And if we are just able to open our eyes just a little bit, we can see those projects. And if, let's say, Aaron, you are so busy, you can't do it, you can delegate, you can talk to one of the other chiefs. And I'm pretty sure, I think Chris is a little bit busy now, but I think Brandon Lovejoy can help a little bit. Or, all of us can team up together and help each other. And eventually just also get some community members who can also help out so that we can reach out to these projects that also needed some funds so that they can build what they wanted to build. But that's just my opinion. Now, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I just want to respond. I totally agree with you, Randall. And I think we could deploy additional, additional capital to tons of really awesome projects, and all the delegates have connections to different things that are bound to bring amazing amounts of value to the community. I mean, I come from a point of view, like after 4 years of austerity measures, that I feel like we should just be pumping money into the community and saying, like, just go make whatever you can, make it awesome. And we're gonna, some things aren't gonna succeed and some things will succeed. And I think it'll all be money well spent. Personally, that's just where I come from. So if if the chief delegates and the delegates are willing to take an additional, sizable chunk of money that comes to them, and then see that it gets into the hands of all these other projects that are, people that are, if we have the infrastructure to try and, we're willing to like try and put together the infrastructure to do that, I'm all about it.
Yeah, we would need the infrastructure in place to be able to do that, as well as probably take portions of the budget for people to run that. Schedule things to act as points of contact to do some of kind of the administration on it, which kind of led back to the whole idea of the legal entity. But we also have to realize that not every project fits within the scope of what Eden's going to be able to do. I said that I think I have enough in my Eden budget because the amount of money I'd need to ask for a gray mass Eden budget as the chief delegate is just unreasonable. Randall, at one point you said something about how just building a wallet wouldn't need $1 million, and I will point out that you are wrong. The wallet itself is probably, maybe to do right, a $3 or $4 million a year initiative, because developers aren't cheap, and keeping them isn't cheap, and the infrastructure isn't cheap. So, but I can't rationalize that into an Eden budget. So that is an example of something that just exists outside of what Eden is capable of doing. And Eden's not even capable of doing the $150,000 projects at this point. And we need to be able to recognize where we need to send those people. Is it Pomelo? Is it to the ENF's new grant framework? Is it a for-profit project? And we need to be like, hey, Chris, you should check this one out. Or Helios, whoever's running that at that point. Or other VCs and other entities that are going to be coming up. We need to figure out where Eden fits in this new ecosystem of fund distribution process.
Lovejoy had said something that reminded me of just about funding the community in general. I think we're in a really unique point in time where anyone who's still in EOS after 4 years of what we've been through can be trusted a lot more than like the traditional VC world. So I totally agree, and I think Dan's also on the same page. He wants to increase inflation by 5%. That was something that was mentioned in the third installment of Bywire's interview with him. And yeah, and he says overpay in the beginning, and I think that's going to happen. And so and I think that it's kind of safe for us to do it because of just where we're at as a community.
Won't be through this system, though, I don't think.
What'd you say?
Yeah, overpaying works in the new system. I think it's a bit more dangerous in today's system.
Yeah.
It's more purely reputational right now, because like we'd have to, like, whoever became a bottleneck would become problematic. Like if you're sitting on some outrageous amount of money and you're not distributing it to the community, that's where it gets a little, because with the weekly rounds we have more accountability.
Yeah, like Aaron could just log out, take the money, and run kind of thing in today's like system. Whereas, with weekly meetings, you can only get like a week's worth of money, and if you fail to rock up, further weeks after that, then you get left behind, and it's just way more competitive. That's why overpaying is there. So some people will probably make some good money for the level of work that they did. But then as word gets out that, this DAO or, Eden 2.0 is pushing out all this money, more and more people are going to want to sign up. There's also going to be incentives to invite people. So you're going to actively go out and try to find the best people, because you can get rewarded for inviting them. And then
Right.
Yeah, and so with the overpay, then more and more talented people will come. So like the new Eden 2.0 is going to attract like non-EOS people, into it far quicker, I think, than today's system, because it's more sort of work orientated, whereas today's system is a bit more. It's about the work, but it's also I think there's a bit of hype around just the sort of like novelty of trying out a new sort of governance system, and it probably leans on that a bit too much, I think. Whereas this is more like what you do this week, compete against others, to get paid and then move up the ranks, and get those points with the community.
Hey there.
We're quiet.
Donald here.
I got quiet and I don't know what happened. I invited Chuck because he was in the sidelines there, and I figured we could start opening the floor up.
Yeah, he is coming through, but it's incredibly quiet.
How's that?
Sounds much better.
Okay.
Yeah, way
Sorry
better.
about that. Yeah, I was just writing in the chat there that one thing, we hear all these rumors and rumors of rumors that Eden's going to be changing and everything, and we know that the white paper's coming, and it's going to be geared towards communities, and it's going to be geared towards all sorts of different communities, completely unrelated to EOS, completely unrelated to crypto, and it's basically real world things. And maybe one thing that Eden could be concentrating on is now seeding communities, going out, finding compatible communities, or not whatever, just finding Eden members who are members of whatever community they're a member of, and telling them to go out and seed that community and get it ready. Like whatever. I'm in the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and it's a union, one of the hardcore unions, and there's a seeding process where if there's a non-union contractor that you want to unionize, the union pays a worker to go and hang out in that contractor, to go work for that contractor. So the union subsidizes their pay up to the union. You know what I'm saying? They're going to accept a lower wage to go work for this contractor, but they're salting them. They're getting them ready to join the union, right? If we think about it in those terms, we need to go out and salt different different communities and get them ready for this movement. Create the hype for the transition to Eden 2.0. I don't know anything about it yet, other than the rumors that we've heard about this white paper, except that we want to generate hype and interest from all these different people who have nothing to do with EOS right now. And this is also one of those things. Like, this is, if it's going to be a viral marketing campaign, we have to figure out something to do, and get everybody on board to do it. But it means that we can find people who are inside Eden, who are members of other organizations, communities, whatever, clubs, games, anything where there's more than two people in a room, and start salting those organizations. And like, I've built a tool. It's very, very manual at this point right now, but I take Aaron's links for a GrayMass wallet, and I can create a QR code, and give it on a printed card to somebody, or I can email it to them, and they have an account. It's very, very easy to do. They if you have anybody in your real life that you can send an account to that you think you might be in, just start now and just start seeding. And there, I don't know what kind of resources people need to do this, but if you can think of any, even just time, the time that it takes for people to concentrate on spreading the word about this, it basically, time is money. if you think about it in those terms, what we can be doing right now is sending the word out, getting ready for the time when there's going to be an avalanche of people coming in. I'm done.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's something we should be thinking about. Is it it brought up a lot of things for me when you're talking just about like the psychological state of our community and where people are at right now after all this time, and the momentum is definitely shifting. Um, but it takes a special character to go out and start recruiting people in organizations to something that doesn't quite yet exist, because it's going to be awesome when we have the history that we do. And so just it's just a challenge to overcome, I think, in ourselves and in our own, community, that willingness to put ourselves out there in that way. I think, Chuck, you have a really good handle on like a lot of real world scenarios that are, you know, adjacent to the Eden community. And I would see a lot of value in somebody, kind of taking on the role of helping to create a map, like, like a Miro board or something, like we could see, like Eden members could be like, oh, I'm a member of this organization. Oh, I'm a member of this organization. And we'd kind of start to create like a visual sense for the size of our network and where we do reach into, and what maybe some of those high priority, you know, um, orgs are that we could tap into when the time comes. Because I do agree that we can lay a lot of groundwork for future, sort of recruitment efforts that would pay dividends. Um, but in terms of actually doing
Yeah,
the
it's
community
a
building
matter of
right now, yeah,
finding out what
yeah.
that groundwork is at, what's worth building. What kind of foundation do you build when you don't even know what the freaking building is going to look like, right? It's we don't even know what. But what I'm saying is just the first step is actually going out and being in those communities. And if we are
Mhm.
already in communities in our daily lives, that's great. Um, it's now time to start talking about it, time to start giving them accounts. um, Aaron's given me a bunch of free accounts for gray mass, and it's just a matter of me sending that email with somebody and then following up on it, right? And then giving them EOS support, and then it's a whole chain of events. But the first step is going and just inviting people in your lives and in your communities to just think about this, right? I've got people all the time who just know, I'm into Bitcoin or whatever, and tell me all about it. And I'm like, well, oh, fuck, where do I go from here, right? And and then like, how do I say no, don't buy Ethereum, it's a waste of time right now and money, buy EOS, and then it's like, we're all, it's a story that we're all familiar with and we're trying to fix it, right? But what we're really trying, getting Eden ready for, if we're talking about what Eden funding should be spent on, and we're going to try to, extrapolate what we think is going to be happening 6 months from now or 3 months from now. um, we're looking at a big change, more directed towards randomness, right? Just random communities, and I think that what we can do is sort of try to build the tools to bring people on and make them feel comfortable. But again, it's like, and I totally commend the bees and support for what they have done in that. That's bringing people on and making them feel comfortable, and that's amazing. And right now, I think, like, one thing that I'm really going to try to focus on. I'm really into, as I've said before, Blender, software Blender, and it's got a freaking humongous a foundation, a huge open source community. It's got tendrils all over the world in all sorts of different industries. And if you could just insert yourself into one corner of that and
What is it, Chuck?
start
What is
talking
Blender?
Blender, yeah, it's open source. 3D software. Like they make movies on it. You can do anything with it. It's just amazing stuff. Um, and there's a huge open source community behind it. But we don't even have, for example, Haifa at our fingertips, where we can say, oh, you can just build a DAO, and here's what a DAO is, here's what it looks like. We don't even have that at our fingertips. And if we had something soon that we could show people, but right now it's just still an idea. It's just, this is coming, and this is Web 3.0, and all the metaverse and all these different words that people are starting to use is starting to catch people's attention. But now we say, like, this is actually happening, and it's going to be a game that you can play weekly to get money for your community, right? That's, if we can start framing that now, people are going to be interested, and by the time the tools are in our hands, we're going to be ready to share it.
Yeah, I think you hit on something there to the end, which is like we need to grow the Eden membership, and we need to provide compelling reasons for people for why they'd want to be in Eden, maybe even if they don't currently have a EOS account, and I think that's an area that could be focused on, because there are already kind of interesting, tangible benefits to being an Eden member, at least within our ecosystem. So, but yeah, I think it's a lot. It's a lot to tackle. There's so many different avenues we could explore in terms of onboarding, and I know, like, probably in Aaron's mind right now, he's like, what are they going to do? What are they going to use when they? It's like the snake eating its own tail.
Yeah.
Problem
What's
we
the
always
point?
run into.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like you have to sell people on like a future vision that hasn't quite come together yet. But trust me, it's going to be worth being here now, because later, when this unlocks all this, value and potential, kind of, it's like, yeah, it's
Are
tricky.
you
Hard.
talking about today's Eden or Eden 2.0 when it comes out?
Both.
But yeah, I mean, like, talking about onboarding people into Eden 1.0 or wherever we're at now, and with an eye towards selling like this vision of what it will be yet become, even though we don't have a white paper yet. But I mean, theoretically, we're going to have that this week, maybe. So,
Yeah.
or not this
Well,
week, but maybe next week.
from what I've seen in the white paper, there's going to be like tons of like there's going to be more than enough incentive to invite people. So like, I don't think, yeah, Eden 1.0 is a bit, not that great, but I think in Eden 2.0, the cat is going to be out of the bag and we're going to get plenty of members. I don't think membership would be much of an issue.
So the incentive is just monetary then?
No, it's not just monetary. There's more as well, but again, there definitely is economic incentive to do it, but there's also other incentives there.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know about those, in terms of like why are we doing this? Because I mean, money's good and all, but I think it's not necessarily the main drive, especially when we use the word community. I feel like that word is overused, and we kind of forget what it actually means. And then when you think about what it means, how does Eden facilitate that meaning? Or again, what's the purpose?
Yeah. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see. We're gonna have plenty to talk about once we get to read the paper. But how leadership evolves out of that, and if there's leadership, or if this is just an autonomous system that helps pay people. Um, in which point, a lot of this funding discussion we're talking about today, and like how we distribute things for what we have today, won't make sense in that new model. Be
Yeah.
interesting.
So I'm with Chris there, because a lot of people, money is not the main reasons why they're here. Okay, if money was the main reason, actually, me, for example, I wouldn't be part of this. what really connected me to EOS has to do with the blockchain. That was number one, which was Dan being very smart that he was able to scale blockchain. And the last thing was Eden, right? That someday communities that are being oppressed or communities that don't have great leadership can have leadership.
We lost Randall again or me?
Yep. We're getting his robot voice.
Funds and
Yeah, Randall, you kind of dropping in and out.
sources for the
He probably can't hear us either,
Yeah, he's on a roll right now.
right? Feel bad. I'm always worried that's gonna happen to me.
hello.
Hi, welcome back.
Can you guys? Oh, yes. Thanks. Sorry about that. I'm in my car, so it broke off a little bit. Sorry about that. But yeah. So I think we have to always reconnect with the fact that we are building a community, and a community means we are making friends. We need trust. We need people we can rely on, and we feel like Eden is a process to help us find that balance, right? So it's not always about money. I mean, money is good as well, but it's not always about money. It's about a way to build friendship, to gather people who want to be productive members of that community, be the warriors of that community, to help others, and to make good use of the talents that we have within that community, rather than being part of something that people just want to get up in the morning just for money, money, money. Because then there will be no value. The community is going to be shit, right? And that's something that we want to look at. So, from our point of view, we have to always make sure that whatever that we are building, it comes with a balance of trust, leadership, responsibility, accountability, and hard working society where people can find friendship, trust, and feel safe.
Yeah, I think you really summed up what makes community important, and not just an empty word in so many ways. I think with respect to Eden 2.0, the only way we're going to really get there is by empowering multiple smaller communities that have specific beliefs or agendas that they can gather around. Because just promoting fractal democracy is a pretty rare breed of cat who wants to be like, we're going to change the world. But if we can cater to a bunch of different people that have their own specific needs and their own specific realms, and want to band together and use the EdenOS as kind of like the infrastructure for what they're already working on, and then start to percolate into fractal democracy as kind of an overarching thing that has value for like a larger purpose, then I think we'll be getting somewhere. Because I guess the reason I was saying that, it's just like it's hard to satisfy a lot of those things you're speaking of, in like a really widespread, like it's just so much easier to build community in person, except now it's a little challenging. But people gathering around a campfire or helping each other with building something, or it's a lot more tangible and real. The more abstract and airy it all gets, I think that's why people rally around token price so hard, is because it's the one thing that almost has has a real material impact on their actual physical lives. And so people see that as significant point of cohesion, I guess, like in the group that people can all rally around. Yeah,
We
kind
might
of
see
ranting.
we might see part of that point of being able to rally in the Eden 2.0 as well. I know we saw it in the Steam days, when hosts were making really good money, and it was this system where quality really it was getting rewarded for the most part, um, before it kind of devolved into something that it wasn't intended. But the community did rally around that sort of thing. It was in support of others and in support of their community, essentially. Um, so we may see that in 2.0, but it might be messy.
Yeah, the
I
way yeah, the mechanisms that Steam and Hive have employed to, I mean, apart from the fatal flaw of stake-based
right.
voting, it's so powerful. Like, I mean, friends here in Minneapolis that also they use Hive. Um, we're so excited to just be able to vote on somebody's post and give them even 10 cents. You know, they were just like
Yeah.
they were so thrilled to be able to direct a portion of inflation with by having ownership in the system. Um, something like that, which of course, Violet Garden has kind of taken up that mantle currently. So, to the extent that we can have ways like that to reward people or to allow people to organically kind of contribute to people that are creating cool things, um, then that's a huge axis of like cohesion that we can build on for sure.
Did we lose Jesse? I know he said he had to go after 6, and I didn't see a message.
Nope, he just
Yeah, I must have. He
pulled
just
an
left.
Irish goodbye.
All right. Could have interrupted us.
Yeah. Well, Happy
Cool,
New Year, Jesse.
right? I was gonna attempt to try to pull it back to the cookie before he left because I know he's been the one that keeps
Oh,
bringing it up. Um, so I asked where he went. But yeah, it certainly hard to answer any of these questions right now unless we just purely go along the mindset of like version 1's going to exist forever. Um, that or that we expect some iteration of version 1 to exist somehow in this new system. But they might be able to play along with each other. Maybe there's 2 treasuries and one of them uses this method and one of them uses the new. I really don't know. Um, but I guess there's just too many questions. I was about to ramble down various rabbit holes, but really just need that more information. Yeah. All right.
yeah, I didn't mean to leave you in total silence
No, that's
there.
cool.
I don't know if everyone else is
Everyone's quiet.
pondering. If
Deep
anyone
thought.
else wants in the audience wants to jump in, that would
Yeah.
be a good
Yeah, feel
time.
free.
I only have max like another 20 minutes um, to be here, but if other people want to raise their hand,
I probably do
share
as
their
well.
profound thoughts, wishes for the new year, since everyone I know is going to be going to really awesome parties tomorrow night and not going to want to hang out with people like us on Discord. Who am I kidding? We'll just be playing video games and no. It's New Year's Eve is really probably happening in the metaverse this year. I'd imagine, actually, in a
Yeah.
big way. Much as I'm not in that world, it's just the reality. Um,
Kind of I've spent at least a few years that way in the past where there'll be groups of friends that are like, we're all just gonna play games together. It might have been in person, um, make it more of a party, but the remote aspect of it will be better than it has been in the past, at least because things like Discord get to bring us together in ways that used to be a lot harder. got a bunch of random Discord servers that have different friend groups.
In the chat, we've got what is the actual purpose of Eden and its impact on EOS so far? From my point of view, it's just a testnet for Fractal Democracy.
I mean, can't disagree.
Yeah, I guess purpose of Eden is to purpose of Eden or purpose of Eden on EOS? Because the purpose of Eden is sort of demonstrated in More Equal Animals. Eden on EOS, I would say, would be to nurture the growth of the EOS blockchain and the community.
So, John, it's very interesting, right? Because when you read More Equal Animals, the purpose of Eden was to elect leaders. Okay, and these leaders are going to use their scale to be more transparent and to provide trust in the process of doing what is right for the community, which is what is right in quotes, meaning reaching consensus and using that money to do what they said they were going to do. Right? But we are using these playoffs to elect these leaders so that the leader will be a representation of all the other people that they met with, right? So in round one, you met with maybe 5 or 6 people. You listened to them. They voted you with a vote of confidence for you to move on to round 2 so that you can represent them. And you are doing that until you get to the final round, which is the Chief Delegates round. And all the Chief Delegates are sort of quote unquote the same, pretty much. The sortition is to elect one of the final Chief Delegates to be the head. So at least they can provide some sort of like the ultimate leadership. But they are technically all like the same with different, let's say, scale set, right? So when you think about it, Eden, as the process, is supposed to elect a leader that everybody trusts, that they will do the right thing and they will actually represent them, right? But there had to be something that you can use to evaluate that person or evaluate how they think. And I think that's why we needed like a project or something for us to use to start the conversation, because you cannot be an expert of everything, right? So whatever that people brought to the table, they discussed it. But the flaw in the system was some people have great ideas, but they were limited because the budget that they were going to be given was not enough for them to move forward. So they gave up and they reached consensus by compromising to elect someone who can move forth, but still be able to represent them because they have trust in them. But people could have also now reached consensus by saying that, hey, you know what? Even though my budget is too big and I cannot move forward, okay, for me to be a leader and also get money for my project, I don't trust you that you are going to represent me enough. So you know what? I'm going to do right by the system by not reaching consensus so that the person in the group is not going to move forward. Okay? So in the new system, what is interesting is this. If we are paying people to force themselves to reach consensus, it would take one person who's very altruistic, right? Like a person who is really, really, really about it to decide that, you know what, today I'm going to lose my time to not reach consensus because the person that we are trying to give this money to, they don't deserve it, right? Or else you have a bunch of people who just say, okay, whatever, I'm just getting my money and we can elect whoever that we want. And that person will move on and we just give the money to that person because I don't want to go home with nothing, right? So there's always a balance that we have to find. And yeah.
The new Eden, how many layers are there to the election? Is it just one? Just a single layer?
I don't have an answer.
John, do you know?
John, do you know? Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't want to spoil surprises, and I'm not sure how much I'm meant to say, so I'm just going to keep my mouth shut.
So much for so much for transparency, huh?
Well, when someone shares something with you for review, it's generally not you shouldn't share it.
Well,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Out of
Wasn't it?
respect.
I thought it was publicly shared that there were multiple rounds somewhere. Because well, it must have been because I didn't hear about it from Dan. So I thought there was like at least you show up for the weekly stand up, you know, and that's your 1 hour, and you get paid just for showing up. And then after that, whoever goes on to the next round, it's the same basic process. It's just
Every week?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But not everyone, you know, you just got to show up in order to participate. But if you're just in for an hour, like you're just in for an hour. If you're working on a project and you're more involved, you stick around for the second. You need to get elected by that first group of people, and then you're going to stick around for 2 hours. And I mean, just think about the meetings we go through every week anyway. And some of us, it's like you go to meetings and don't get paid. You know, so imagine it could work. I was kind of skeptical at first, but I'm starting to come around that this might actually be an interesting.
If you think of your classic office job, you spend at least, you know, an hour or two in meetings a week, don't you? And then, yeah, what we've been doing as chief delegates, you know, our meetings go for, on average, 2 hours, sometimes
Yeah.
more, isn't it? So, yeah, and, you know, and again, like the value that you know, spit out, like, you know, you have to convince the rest of the community every week, you know, then like that level of accountability that we get is like through the roof. So, yeah, I think it's worth the expense, especially if we have more communities. So, you know, in theory, language barriers will be sort of smaller, communities will be a bit tighter. So, you know, as people get like a routine and stuff like that, then, you know, I think that the meetings should be, you know, pretty productive, and people know, you know, what to say, when to say it, kind of thing, and, you know, how to, you know, create a sort of uniform fashion overall.
So the goal is to get a budget for that whole community or a budget for themselves.
Yeah, well, every you know, community would be registered as a community, and so then they'll just be going for themselves, and that community can decide, you know, what they've, you know, sort of valued their work as.
It feels like this whole system doesn't fit with a lot of what Randall just said about electing leaders that you're going to trust to represent your interests ahead of time. Which kind of goes back to this whole idea of this. I can't argue that this is just a test net for Fractal Democracy with the purpose of serving EOS. But the one thing I think we've learned is that there's like, because it is a test net, it has not enough value to actually be a real instantiation of what this could be. There are like, if we were actually to run on like what the community, as we've kind of defined, actually does need, there's not sufficient funding available to make that happen.
Well,
So
is it a test net, or is it in production, but it's just, you know, not fully baked?
it's obviously not on a test network. The tokens are of real value, but it's a test net in the sense that it's
The process.
insufficiently funded, and the process is subject to change.
So my thinking is this, okay? This is how I'm seeing this. I think each community, okay, each community is supposed to run their own meetings every month. I mean, not every month, I'm sorry, every week. Okay. So let's say you have a community of doctors. They will meet every week to determine the value that each department brought to the table or people brought to the table, and then allocate funds to them for them to continue to do what they are doing within that community. And the community, the founders or the leaders or the administrators that have been elected to represent that community should now meet once every 6 months or so to run an election, to get a budget to fund the community. That makes sense to me. But you cannot have a community just coming in, everybody just coming in like that. You can't run a community like that if you want to think about it technically. Because then the changes are too much, that you cannot have a trusted person who you can go to, and you cannot have the smart minds actually leading the community.
Which is why I think it's just the Eden thing. Like there's a book, Molecular Animals. It describes a process. There are multiple applications. Like we've just scratched the surface of what can be done with this as a process, as a utility for communities, people, whatever, right? So like Eden 2.0 is just going to be another test of how that process can be rolled out to do something. To me, it's the way we're doing it now is yet another way. And this won't be the only, hopefully, if this is done properly, we don't want this to be just siloed into the EOS community, this process. I know I'm here to hopefully spread this to other communities. It'd be cool to have the Eden process run on Telos and run on Wax to figure out who they're like. All these chains that have centralized people, how do they get picked? And that's maybe where I think the greatest power that Eden can come from, is to how our groups of individuals selecting their leaders and representatives. It's that fundamental thing. And maybe that's not what Eden 2.0 does. Like maybe that's just not what it's for.
Yeah. Eden 2.0 is doing something else. It's actually worried about budgets. But
I wonder if they should be named different things.
Yeah, they should name a different thing, because that's gonna get people confused. Because right now what we need is we need a vision, okay? We need a path. We don't want confusion. We've been having confusion on EOS for a long time. Okay, we don't want to add another confusion on top of confusion. So I think we should sit down and decide that if we want to maybe allocate budgets within a community, maybe they can possibly do this. But when you want to elect a leader, you have to do this. And we have to be concrete on what we are trying to do and stick with it. Or else we will have so many people calling Eden this, and this person is calling Eden that, and there's a 1.0. People are confused. People are trying to come on board, don't know if they're using 2.0, they're using 1.0. I mean, that's just my opinion, like I always say, but I think we should elect leaders. And then if we want to be more accountable, we should use the process. Because I was thinking that same way, that in EOS support, as time is going on, how do we hold people accountable? They have to meet once a week, talk about what is happening, and then, choose who did the best work within that week. And then we give them a bonus with that process, that consensus building algorithm, right? But on top of that, we have ways that we pay people a minimal amount every time that they do something. And then within that, we use the process to elect leaders who will hold their positions as admin for 6 months, because you can't just keep changing them. You will fail. No company can run like that, okay? The ENF has to stay for a certain amount of time for continuity's sake, and also to utilize the ability of that intellect. The person who's there, if they are so good, you don't want to just remove them. You want them to stay there and do a great job for continuity, for growth, and for a purpose. So all that has to be taken together, because when you're trying to become so idealistic, you end up with foolishness, right? Sometimes you have to be pragmatic with a little bit of ideals, but you merge the two together to find a balance. It's always about the chi, the balance. So my take is we have to be careful the direction we go. And if we are going to a different direction, we have to think through it, right? We can do this, but we have to build maybe the communities first, right? Like the English community can use weekly meetings to make sure that there's accountability, but we have a process to elect leaders for them to stay for 6 months, so that those leaders can also help distribute funds for other things as well. Now you have a community, and the community will function a little bit better, in my opinion. Again,
What role do you see that the Eden community leaders doing other than just handing out funds?
Also helping with some decisions. Like they don't speak for the whole community, but sometimes when there's a problem, you need people to gather together and talk about it, to give a little bit of their take on things. And sometimes too, it helps the community also calm down. Because when there's a chaos, okay, the leaders in the community, they give some sort of like a vision for how the community is going to act. So when you have a foolish leader, sometimes they will cause panic and the community will just go crazy. Okay. So one of my things that I normally do is when there's a problem, I try to go into Telegram to calm the people down by just saying one or two things. And sometimes it just takes some positivity, and then people calms down, and then you are able to tell them what you want to really tell them. It's all skill set that you
Okay,
need,
so
right?
there's a sort of like, I guess, panel kind of leadership, and then there's fund distribution. Is there anything else?
So yeah, so leadership and also funds distribution. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Governance
know.
oversight, God power control. The Eden delegates could be the ones who they're the ones who appoint the ENF representatives as opposed to the block producers.
Yeah, but is that realistic?
Sure, why
Could
not?
be. It'll be
Why
a
isn't it? Why is
really
it not
long time
realistic?
frame.
I don't know. I feel like it's a bit hopeful in that area, and at the moment in Eden 1.0's current state, like essentially it's a sort of fancy way of handing out funds. Like in terms of the governance powers, we don't have any. Like we can't even kick out our own members, or like do we ever? We don't have a button either that we can just say, hey, like if 90% of Eden members said, hey, the head delegate is evil and he's corrupt or whatever, we want him gone. And in the current status, they can't trigger a re-election, can they? Like
No,
development.
no, but John, we are building together, right? Because the way I see Eden is this: if we are able to get this experiment to work, we are trying to deploy this system in places where they need it the most. I'm thinking about Nigeria. I just spoke to my friend in Nigeria, and I was like, "How can we do this?" And I explained Eden to him in a different way. I explained it to him in how it is in the book, and he was like, "Oh man, I think this is it." Okay, so we shouldn't just think about cryptocurrency now, right? We should be thinking about how this applies in real life. You can't go to Ghana, Nigeria, and all these big countries, and you are going to tell the people to get on the line every week to come vote or do whatever. No, it's not going to work. But we can do it in a way that they can elect leaders every 6 months or every a year per se. Okay, and the way that I was reading that book, I thought Dan literally was thinking about the new United States of America. How can we change this two-party system? How can we make the system become a reality? All right. And that's why as a doctor, I stopped whatever that I was doing. And I was like, let me put on my little development hat that I've had and I've not used it in God knows how long. And let me start going back into this to see what I can do to help. Right. Because it makes sense to me. Because the system that we have right now, man, that thing doesn't work. Right. And at some point, we have to change the way we are running our democracies right now. And I thought this is what we are trying to do. But we have to be careful. If we want to do this, great changes and big things come from small packages, right? You'll be surprised that a bunch of guys who were online with a great mind like Dan Larimer actually were the ones that were able to find something that changed the way society saw things. You'll be surprised. But we have to look at it seriously and not play games with it, right? And I think if we do that and we all come together and bring the minds that we have, we can actually achieve it. All right? I really believe that because it takes only the small little drops of the waters that are coming from the rocks to come together to form that ocean that we see. And that ocean becomes so powerful. So even though today we are talking about this like this, for me, I actually wanted to talk to my doctors when this is matured now. I wanted to talk to my doctors about how we can use this to to squash some of the beef with the COVID situation. Okay, they are fighting amongst themselves. They can't vote. It's a mess, and hospitals are going crazy. So at some point, I wanted to bring it up, like, guys, why don't we introduce this system, and let's use it to vote and pick our leaders, so that we can now have equal voices in the hospitals, right? I mean, something like that. So, but we have to make sure that it works. We have to make sure that we can do this the right way before we can actually start bringing people on board.
I think that was a great sermon to end on, Randall. It's very inspirational. I don't know about other people, but I gotta dip out.
Too soon.
Totally agree. Maybe we're in a closing thoughts phase, and that was Randall's. That was good.
And I think in response to
Is it Mark?
that, I would say what you're describing primarily is Eden 1.0, for lack of a better name, and we don't know if this system is going to be continuing on for EOS like we're seeing today, or if 2.0 is replacing it. The 2.0 system might not work to the point as to where it becomes a leadership promotion system where it can actually lead a chain someday, and it could lead, not saying it could lead EOS anytime soon, but it could potentially lead another chain. It could do BP selection, it could be God powers, it could be the DPoS replacement in that ecosystem. But Eden 2.0 might not be able to do that. We really don't know what its capabilities are for a leadership system. So maybe what we need to find out is, are these going to be in parallel, or is the contract that we're running on today going to be overwritten with what the new system is? Because if that happens, then we're stuck trying to run it ourselves.
Anyone
Video.
else?
Yep.
Yeah, no, Eden 2.0. When the white paper comes out, I think everyone will be pretty excited. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
super
cool.
pumped to read that in the new year. Chris, yeah, cool. That's what you
Yeah,
got.
nothing that. Yeah, sounds good. I look forward to reading it as well.
Same. Lots to talk about.
Yeah. I know, it's like speculation central here, but a lot of good musings.
Yeah, these
Thanks for
guinea pigs
everybody.
can't hear what the scientists are doing to our maze.
Too real. It's too real.
Yeah. All right, guys. So I'm heading out, and Happy New Year, guys. It has been a blast. I've loved every conversation and every meeting. You guys are great.
Likewise. Yeah.
Yep.
See
Happy New
see you all on the
Year.
other side. Happy New Year. Damn near.
Getting close.
Soon.
Right.
Thanks everyone for showing
Right
up
on.
and
Yep. Thanks for joining us.
participating.
Cheers.